Hello, I'm Rebecca Downs. Welcome to the 5th episode in the second series of my podcast, Downs Your Way, in association with Blues in Britain magazine. Regular listeners will know this by now, but if you're tuning in because you're a fan of my guest and you want to find out more about me, who the heck am I, or the magazine Blues in Britain, then please follow the links below in the show notes. As you know, in this new series, I'm taking a new direction and I'm asking you to come with me on a journey through the landscape of the current music scene, looking at what's going on, the impact it has on musicians and how they deal with it. In this episode, I am talking to another member of the music sisterhood, Chantel McGregor, award-winning musician, singer, songwriter and downright amazing guitarist.
You're coming with me.
Right, hi everyone, and we have got the amazingly talented guitarist that, oh my God, I've just been in awe of since day one, the incredible Chantel McGregor. Hello.
Hello, are you all right?
I'm all right, yeah.
Good.
Wow, I wish I could play like you.
Sometimes I wish I could play like someone else. Don't worry.
Don't be ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous. Yeah, it's just because I teach as well, and it's amazing. Like when you see, I don't teach guitar, obviously. That would be very wrong on so many ways. But when you see, like, you know, young girls coming up really able to play and shred, and you're like, yes.
It's so good, isn't it? When you see young lasses and you just think, go for it, do it.
Yeah, go for it, do it. There's not enough of them. I mean, there really isn't. So, gigging after lockdown, we all enjoyed our little lockdown, didn't we? Me with Ralph the dog and you with your cat. What's your cat's name?
She's called Raven. Bless her. We got her in lockdown, so she's a lockdown cat.
Lockdown cat.
Yeah. Well, it gave us an excuse to go travelling, didn't it? Because you can rescue animals. So
Oh, could you? I didn't even know that. I probably ended up with a house full.
well, I would anyway. God, I'm a right cat lady. But yeah, we were after a cat, and I'd been like, "Can we get a cat? Can we get a kitten?" And a lady who she's actually worked with some of the promoters that we work with in Scotland, and she rescues cats. So we were like, "Oh, have you got any cats, Karen?" And she's like, "Well, I've got this little one called Raven." And I'm like, "Oh my God, she's gorgeous." And she's like got long hair and she's fully black and she's just like, oh, smoochy. So we were like, right, you live in London and we're in Cambridge and we're technically not allowed to travel. But then I did a lot of digging on the government website and it was like, if you're rescuing an animal, you can travel for it. And I'm like, well, technically we are.
Raven was rescued. So Raven sounds like a rock cat to me.
She is. Well, we didn't even name her, which I would have called her that because it is a very rock and roll name. But she was called by Karen. She was called Raven. So I was like, we're keeping that name.
It was meant to be, wasn't it? It was just meant to be. So actually, because we just mentioned cats, I'm going to zoom off on that cat topic and on because I mean I don't know about you, but like I mean this industry is quite frankly crazy at the best of times, isn't it? I mean, it really is. It's mind-blowingly insane, and sometimes not in a good way.
Yeah.
I mean, Ralphie, for me, you know, mental health-wise and keeping me on track, he is, you know, he brings me back down to reality.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, does having little Raven, does that help? Did it
Yeah,
help with lockdown?
Definitely. I mean, lockdown for me was the two like most extreme things you could have because it was weird because I was away because my boyfriend lives in Cambridge and I was up in Bradford. Originally I was in Spain with my family on a holiday when lockdown kicked in and it was like, we're stuck. What do we do? The flights are all cancelled. We can't get back. And Britain wasn't in lockdown at that point, but Spain sort of like on the Saturday just went, right, everything's shut at 6:00. And we were like, oh my goodness, what do we do now? And then EasyJet, of course, cancelled the flights. And we were like, oh God, what do we do now? So a little bit of repatriation flights and stuff getting back. And we were like, right, Jamie's in Cambridge. I'm in Bradford. We didn't see each other for 4 months. So when they said you could bubble with another household that's a one person household, a vulnerable person, I was like, Jamie, you're vulnerable, aren't you? Yeah. So we bubbled, and it was like, oh, I'll come for 2 weeks, and then I just didn't go back. So it was like, probably if we didn't have lockdown, that wouldn't have happened quite as quickly, and we wouldn't have got a cat probably quite as quickly either. So that was the brilliantest bit of lockdown ever. For us, it was great, but then obviously having no money, it was a bit rubbish. No
Yeah.
gigs equals no money, and I couldn't get furloughed, and I couldn't get size grants, so it was literally like I had nothing. Um, and I just fell through the cracks basically. But I was really lucky because mum and dad really helped. But without them, I'd have been absolutely ruined basically.
Yeah, I think a lot of people sort of fell through the cracks, didn't they? And
Mm.
in that respect, and I was quite lucky because I teach part time, so I was still teaching on Zoom, which was kind of just keeping it going, really. But I think for a lot of people, and speaking to musicians, that's what they do full time. It's like sort of forget now how devastating that time was, don't you? It's like, it just seems a bad dream, but
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was so strange because I mean, we were doing like the shed sessions and stuff, but I mean, for the first year of the shed sessions, I was like, I'm not going to like put a PayPal link or anything. I'll just do it for free because, people need something to look forward to and enjoy, and I'm not going to charge people for that. So we did it like for, I think it was about a year we did it for now, or thereabouts. And then it was like people were suggesting, we really want to give you a bit of money and we want to support you and help you get through this. And I was like, well, I don't want to be cheeky. And I felt, do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Maybe it's just me, but I felt cheeky and I felt like, well, you've not, you're not working either. So why would I do that? And then it was kind of like, okay, well, I really do need to pay for shopping bill this week. I need to pay for little bill. So yeah, all right then. So we put a PayPal link up after about a year, and then people were so kind, and and it really massively saw us through. Basically, it was a real help.
The power of your fans, eh?
I know I'm lucky. I've got some really, really lovely fans, and I'm just lucky because they're nice.
I don't think it's luck though, Chantel. I think it's because it's who you are. And I
I don't
think,
know.
it is, no, it is, I think, and it's a combination, I think, of the music and who you are as a person. I think people see you, and I think they see the real you a lot. And there's,
Mm.
in a lot of social media, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. You kind of do less of that than most artists, I think. And I
Yeah,
noticed that, and I think that kind of speaks even bigger for you.
yeah. I mean, social media is so tricky to balance because it's like you've got to advertise your gigs. That's what you use it for, is advertising gigs and getting the word out and whatnot. But you don't want to be that person that's just like constantly on there going, come to my gig, come to my gig. Because I just unfollow those people because it's just really irritating. But you've still got to use it in a really like way that you're like connecting with people. And I think that's for me is how you use social media is to really connect with people on a personal level. And if somebody comments, you try your best to comment back to as many as you can. I mean, you can't always because you've got life and you might get a bajillion comments and you drive into, I don't know, Tesco's or something. So you can't reply to everybody. But I try to connect with people as much as I can. And I don't, well, you know what I'm like. I'm straight up and I can't be doing with falseness and stuff like that. I say it as I see it. And I just think, if you put yourself out there as who you are, then you can't mess up because you're not going to go wrong because do you know what I mean? If you're false, you get found out. And I just think just be yourself and then you can't cock up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great thing to say because I think and social media is so awkward as well. It's like I don't really have. It's not that I don't want to support everyone that I know, but I don't really have time to go looking down my feed. I only sometimes have time to go to the notifications, do that, answer a few messages because you've got other stuff going on, and
Yeah,
you can't
you
do
can't
it.
do everything.
Can't do it.
Um, no, I mean, I know, quite a few people have people doing the social media forum, and that's brilliant. But I just look at that and go, well, you've got to pay somebody if you're doing that. And, you know, there's that little money in the industry as it is to start saying, well, I'm going to start paying somebody, you know, however much an hour to run my social media. I can't afford that. So you just do it yourself, and you do it while you sat on loo or while you're
Yeah, no,
cooking your
it's
tea.
true though, isn't it? It's so true while you're watching some rubbish on the box, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the way it is, isn't it?
Mm.
And I think, but I think that's probably what really sort of comes across from you to me is that sort of, you know, the realness, and you know, just a straightforward woman who just wants to go out there, play a guitar, play her songs, and gig, and this is what you see is what you get. So I really applaud you for that, because I think it's really hard to do that actually in this
Yeah.
industry as a woman as well. People seem to expect so much because we're women.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about that? Well, have you
I
experienced stuff like that?
Oh God, yeah. It's not even the expectation. It's kind of like, as a woman, you're an easy target. You're an easy target for somebody to bully you online, or, you know, other musicians, not just, you know, not just public, people who should know better. Um, Generally blokes. But you're an easy target because you're this, you know, weak, feeble, inferior, whatever. And it's like, well, no, I'm not. I'm equal to you. But you know, it's jealousy, and it's just people that have got insecurities, and you just go, well, do you know what? I rise above that. I don't even need to respond to it.
Mm.
So,
Wait, I mean, yeah, I was speaking to Walter Trout actually,
oh, he's
and he,
such a love.
such
Oh,
a love,
love
and you
that
know,
man.
he's such a baby, and but like, I mean, I saw, you know, not too long ago, somebody having a go at him on a comment, and he
Saw
just
that.
for his guitar playing, and you're like, of all the people you wouldn't expect, so it's like nobody is without, you know,
No,
you just, I wouldn't have thought it, would you, have Walter
no,
Trout to
no.
be criticised?
But people are mean, you know. It's human nature to, you know, to watch a car crash, to, you know, watch trashy television where people are falling out and stuff. That's human nature. People want to see you built up and then knock you down. And I think that's a really, really awful trait that people have, but some people do have it. And I saw the same thing that Walter got, and because Walter reposted it. And I mean, I wrote a big long comment, and then I thought, no, delete it, don't get involved, because it's, you know, if you get involved, then somebody will come on at you. And I just thought, you know what, I'm not, you know, so I deleted the whole comment, but spent about half an hour ranting on Facebook. But it's, you know, you're in the public eye, you know, and people see that as a, you've put yourself out there, so we're allowed to say what we want because you're out there doing it, and we've got a voice, we've got an opinion. And it's like, well, yeah, everybody's got an opinion, but don't give you a right to be mean and nasty.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And I think the main times I've got it, I don't know about you, is when I've had enough money to do an advert on Facebook, um, which are, ladies and gentlemen, they are pretty expensive. Oh, you
Yeah,
know, got to be honest.
they are.
And of course, that reaches different people, doesn't it? And I have had some, you know, the way I look, my hair,
What?
the 100%, you
You
know.
look fabulous.
Well, not according to, you know, some lovely men out there.
Yeah, but they're probably these minging old men sat behind a computer that, you know, never leave the bedrooms. It's like, you know, that'll be those people that are commenting.
It's probably true. But do you ever get any of that? Do you ever get any like a personal attack sort
Oh
of?
yeah. Oh God, yeah. I've had some awful things put on, because I mean, I know I'm not the skinniest person in the universe. I know
Neither
I'm
am
not.
I. Hell,
Well,
no
we're women.
excuse.
We're
Yeah.
normal and we're women. You know, I'd love to be a size 6, but it's not going to happen. You know, I like eating. I like eating, and I
Eating's
like,
great. It's really good fun.
yeah. So, you know, and you need it to live, so you should
Yeah,
eat.
exactly.
But it's, you know, I've had all sorts on YouTube. People comment and say about my weight, or they'll say about, you know, all sorts of just rubbish. And you just think, do you know what? Get a life. If this is the best that you've got, is to sit behind your computer and slag me off for being a little bit chubby. It's like, well, grow up. You know, get out of your bedroom for once and go and do something in real world, do something positive and constructive.
It's really bizarre, isn't it? And it's like hiding behind, you know, a fake account a lot of the time, or
Yeah.
and it is, yeah. I mean, I do deal with them better now, but I have to say it still resonates
It
in
hurts.
my
I think
head.
that's the thing. And probably as a woman, you're more susceptible to it. I mean, I can't imagine some of the things that people have said to me on YouTube. They wouldn't say the same thing to, I don't know, Alan Nimmo or somebody else.
No.
You know, they wouldn't say it to a bloke, probably because Alan would punch him, but but they just wouldn't, because I don't know what, there's something in the mind that goes, well, we respect that person more than that person, or we wouldn't dare say it to that person, but we would that person. It's okay to say it to a woman. And it's just like, it's not okay to say it to anybody. You're just being a bit of a bully and a bit of a plonker.
Yeah. Well, you can swear on this podcast. Many people have, by the
I'm
way.
being
So
good.
it's definitely going to be 18 plus. So I have to hold it back a bit. But
I was being good then, could you tell? I was censoring myself.
oh,
I
you were very good.
went through about 8 words then before I got to plonker.
I could see it in your eyes going through it, one after the other. But yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? That sort of like, yeah, as you're saying, it's almost like a skinny privilege as well, in a lot of respects. And I have a lot of, I've had a lot of, I think one bloke said I look like Eddie Izzard, and I said, well, that's great. I think he's really beautiful.
Yeah. Take it as a compliment.
And you just think, well done you. I don't know. It's a bizarre world that we live in, and Twitter and YouTube and all the social media can be so destructive.
It can. And I mean, there's always been that trait in human nature, I suppose, to bring people down. But I think, I mean, when I was young, it was kind of like, people were on television, they want social media. It were, you'd see people in magazines or people in television and what ideal women looked like and stuff. And you think, well, yeah, I'd love to look like that. And I probably did till I was about 18 and discovered beer. But it's probably where it went wrong, really. I discovered real ale. Up to being 18, I was like a size 6 and weighed about 7 stone, and it was all brilliant and wonderful. But then, you become a woman and your bum gets a bit bigger and you like real ale. So, but yeah, back to that. When I was young, there wasn't the social media, so it wasn't easy for people to slag you off. The most they could do is say it to your face. And I don't think people were as rude. Well, maybe they were as rude, but maybe they just didn't have as much, I don't know, stuff to hide behind. Whereas now on social media, you can just say what you want and there's no consequence, because it don't matter. It's written. It's out there. It doesn't really matter. And to be fair, even if somebody really slanders you or whatever, you take it to police and they don't care anyway.
No,
because Facebook's American jurisdiction, so they can't be prosecuted and stuff like this. So you just think, well, you can get away with whatever you want, and to me that's wrong. It's but I think that's more of a reflection on people than social media. I think social media is just giving people an outlet to do what they would have always done if they had the balls.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think if, very different coming up and saying it to you at a gig, isn't it? You know what I mean?
They wouldn't do it.
They just wouldn't do it.
No.
But if you can hide behind a screen and just delete your account afterwards, if it gets a bit messy, then it's all right, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I used to get really upset about it, and I still get upset. It still hurts. But now, so I used to get upset and I was like, oh, if I delete it, they're going to send more abusive rubbish. Now I'm just like, right, block. And I don't even go any further in my head than that. It's just like, well, you're a bit of a pillock, block. And that's it. I don't let it affect my day anymore, because it's more of a reflection on them than it is me. I'm comfortable in myself, and there's plenty of other people that do like me.
It's crazy. Do you think there's an element of, especially because you play lead guitar, I mean, it's, I play a bit of rhythm and just hang on to it as tight as I can and remember my bar chords, but you're there shredding it up. Do you think that probably ignites them a little bit as well? Because they're like, there's a jealousy there, and there's a girl, woman playing a guitar.
There is, yeah. And it's, you would hope by this day and age that would be not a thing. And with some people, it's not a thing. Most people, or, I would say a big chunk of people appreciate it and just go, well, a musician's a musician, whatever gender you are. If you're good at it, you're good at it. That's it. But you still get it where blokes will be like, well, she's only doing that. She's only as famous as she is because she's a girl. And it's like, well, no, it's because I've played guitar since I was 3 and I got a degree in it and I got a first class degree in it. And I've worked my bum off all my life to do this and sacrificed everything in my life to do it. And you'll still get people that are jealous and, they'll bitch about it because they're not getting gigs or because they're still at home playing in the bedroom and whinging about it instead of actually getting out there and doing it. But they'll use the gender card and say, oh, it's because she's a girl. That's how she got publicity. And it's like, actually, it's twice as hard as a girl because you look at guitar magazines and go, how many females are in that? What percentage of females are in Guitar Techniques or whatever? You'll probably find maybe 10%, 20 at a push, real push. They're only ever going to put in maybe 2 or 3 females every edition because it's fit that quota. We've done that. We've done the 20% female, so we can do the 80% male now. And that's all. That's what it comes down to.
Bit the same on festivals as well, isn't it? I think sometimes, some more than others, But I speaking to other females on this as well, it's like, oh, well, we've got a female on that day.
Tick that box.
Yeah, it's like, but you've got 20 bands on that day.
Yeah,
over 2 stages. Oh, yeah, but we've got a female that day.
Yeah, and where's the rest of them?
Yeah, it's like.
Well, there was a thing, wasn't it? A thing that they were saying about, was it Glastonbury or something this year?
Yeah.
There were a big media push about the fact that there were barely any female artists. And then I watched the BBC footage of all the BBC stuff for Glastonbury, and I'm like, there's tons of females on. But I'm going, there's tons and tons and tons and billions of bands on at that festival. Has BBC gone, well, we need to put the females up there because we have to be seen to be being, inclusive and say we've ticked all the female boxes and it's equal and whatever. Whereas the actual programming for it is that all the females that were actually on it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that could well be the case. And
I don't know the answer to that. I'm just speculating, but
yeah. I know years ago it was either with Reading or Leeds, and Lily Allen sort of photoshopped the poster and took out all the female artists, and there was no, if you took out the female artists, there was no
difference.
No difference. There was like a couple of spaces.
No, I mean, to be fair, I think in like the rock blues world, it is some festivals are amazing. So like we just did this festival at Alfold this weekend, and on our day there was like Brave Rival, there was us, there was When Rivers Meet, and you go, well, there's 3 brilliant bands that are heavily featuring females, fronted by females, and you go, this is fabulous. This is blooming brilliant. Pretty much. We weren't there. We saw Catfish, but obviously they're not girls. And you'd go, well, probably 50% of that day was female, and you think that's absolutely fantastic. And my hat's off to everybody at that festival because, they've just done a perfect job, and you think that's what it should be. That's how it should be, as normal, not as a me complimenting them for being amazing. That's what it should just normally be.
Because it's not like we're saying let's just shoehorn some random female artists from down the pub on. They are out there. They're doing their thing. You don't have to look very far.
Yeah, so talented as well. And you go, well, there's so many talented female musicians out there, and they just need a bit more of a shove and a bit more of a, shoving to front at pile a little bit.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So on a gigging note, like, because you're a very busy, gigging artist, touring artist. I mean, how have you found it coming back from lockdown? There's been many changes. Some have said yes, some have gone into some issues. It just depends. How have you found it?
It's been weird, I'll say. So I would say now is pretty much normal now. But coming back out of COVID was like, you still had people that were really frightened, that didn't want to go out. They didn't want to come to gigs because obviously there's a lot of people in one room at once. So you found that ticket sales were all over the shop. Some gigs would sell out immediately. Some gigs you'd go, why is this not selling? It normally always sells out. What's going on? And there was no pattern and there was no reason. It was just like, there was no logic to it at all as to why when this normally sells out, is it not selling like it would? And why when this one doesn't normally sell out, has it already sold out? And you just think, and you couldn't predict. And I think for me, that was really difficult because it was like, I mean, I'm really quite a, not a, well, probably quite a sensitive person. And I looked at gigs and went, well, God, that one's not selling as well as it would normally do. Why don't they like me anymore? Which is ridiculous because it's not about whether they like you or not. It's whether they feel comfortable coming out anymore, or whether, they're thinking, well, actually, we'll give it a couple more months and just see how things go. And especially at first when things were getting, you were in lockdown. We're out of lockdown. Woohoo, we can party now. Oh no, we're back in lockdown. Everything's cancelled again. And, people were booking hotels and accommodation and taxis and travel and whatever. And then it'd get cancelled. And then they'd lose money. And I felt awful about that because it was like, well, if you've booked a train and you can't get a refund on it, but the gig's not going to go ahead because we're back in lockdown. And it were absolute nightmareville. But it were for everybody. But it was just unpredictable, I think, and uncertain, and just, I'm not going to say the unprecedented word because that was an awful word that they used so much and it was so annoying. But it was that thing where you just didn't know, and you didn't know whether it would be busy or quiet. And some gigs that used to do amazing on advance sales wouldn't, and you'd go, oh my God, it's not gonna, we're gonna get there late and over day. And then you do amazing on a walk up. And it was all stuff like that you think, you prepare yourself for the worst, thinking we're going to be playing to, a really small crowd, and then you do like double it on a walk up and think, why has Grimsby done more on a walk up than it has in advance? And normally it's the other way around. And people, and there were just no logic other than you'd think, well, people are waiting until the last minute in case it gets cancelled again. So it was just tricky, but, we got through it, and a lot of people didn't. And I think we're really lucky that we did.
Yeah.
So, a lot of bands that I know haven't made it through and have just folded because they can't afford to do it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think the money aspect of it is, well, it's a massive issue for me. Hands on the table. I think it's cards on the table, not hands on the table. But I think it's something that kind of, I think as well, like going back to some of the stuff you said about, people on social media, you've got a profile. I think they sometimes think that hand in hand with that profile comes money.
It's like
probably more than they think.
Yeah.
So that's where some of the jealousy comes. But I think the truth of it is probably somewhere along far away from what they assume.
Yeah, it is. It's ridiculous. I mean, people go, oh, you're headlining a festival, you must be making tons of money. And it's like, no, it's costing me tons of money because every gig I've got if we're staying over, it's 4 hotel rooms, which now hotels have gone through the roof. So, I mean, we did Edinburgh the other week and we were trying to book Travel Lodge, so it's not even like we're in 4-star, it's Travel Lodge. And we were like, right, well, we'll have a look around Scotland because Edinburgh Centre was just like, you couldn't book it because Harry Styles were playing Edinburgh that night, which was really annoying.
Yeah. So, you could have asked.
I know, it's just rude. Good hair though, very good hair.
Great hair.
So I was like, right, we need hotels because we're doing Edinburgh one night, Glasgow the next night, Aberdeen the night after. So I was like, right, hotels. And this were booked, I don't know, hotels were booked maybe 6 months in advance. So it were a long way in advance. It wasn't like they were last minutes. So for 4 hotel rooms in Edinburgh, or 13 miles out of Edinburgh, it was £897.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. And I was like, can't afford to do it. I can't afford that. So we ended up driving from Edinburgh to Glasgow after the gig, did the gig, drove to Edinburgh from Bradford, then drove to Glasgow after the gig, stayed over just south of Glasgow because we got them like half at price, then did Glasgow, but because the football had been on that day, the prices in Glasgow were ridiculous, so did the gig in Glasgow and drove to Aberdeen, which was like 2.5 hours away because it was cheaper to stay in Aberdeen. And it's like, fuel's gone through the roof, everything's just so expensive. And you go, how's this viable? gig prices haven't gone up, fees haven't gone up,
No, I
but
know.
everything else has.
I mean, I was talking to Alan Nimmo, and he was saying exactly the same thing. You know, doing a gig that he'd done at a venue he'd always wanted to do. There was 1,400 people there, and as he stepped onto the stage, he was filled with worry, thinking how much it had actually cost to put the show on, and I'm sure people look at him and think he must be earning a fortune. But it's the higher up you go as well. So the
more you spend,
more crowd you pull, the more obviously as well. You're the same as me. You're sorting the hotel rooms for your band. It's not all for one and one for all.
No, it's not.
You've got to feed them. You've got to make sure they're okay. You've got to, exactly, a travel lodge. I remember when we did a King Christmas do one year and stayed in Lincoln, and we were staying in, well, quite a posh place, the Premier Inn, because it was around the corner. Hello.
Posher than travel lodge.
Thank you. And we came down the stairs, and it was and in the morning, and some of the crowd that had been there the previous night says, "Oh, we didn't think you'd be stopping here. We thought you'd be stopping at somewhere way better." I'm like, mate, this is living the dream.
This is posh.
This is posh.
Yeah, that's what it's like. It's, I mean, so many people, well, bands included, they'll turn up with a tour bus, and you go, who's paying for that? You've got a tour bus, and you are paying an app. And to be honest, I see it with a lot of younger bands.
Yes.
Especially, they'll go, well, we've got a tour bus, and you're like, well, who's paying for it? What record company's paying for it? How are they getting money for it? Well, they're just paying for it, and it's like, no, it's for free. You're paying for it.
They'll be wanting that back.
Yeah, yeah, and they don't see it as once you recoup, you're paying for that, and you're not making any money. And CDs and stuff, people go, well, you must be making loads on CDs. It's like, no, no, I've got to buy them. they don't fall out of the sky. I have to pay for manufacturing and pay MCPS and pay all this stuff out, and do all this, and it just doesn't go, whoa, there's a CD, there's 1,000 on a pallet outside, that's great. It doesn't happen like that. You have to pay for it, and it costs a hell of a lot of money, and that's the job. And PR for every gig. I mean, I pay a PR company per gig. I pay them a fee to publicise that gig, and they put it in newspapers that probably nobody reads. And and then I pay Facebook adverts on every single gig. And you go, well, does anybody see them? Does anybody watch them? I don't know. But if you don't do it, then nobody's going to see it because you haven't done it. So you do it because you think, well, if maybe, I don't know, 10 people buy a ticket, you've nearly recouped what you've spent on PR.
And also, the performer inside us, we want people to be there.
You do. You
it's
don't want to go to an empty room.
We just really want people to be there, because if there's no one there, it's a really crap gig.
Yeah, exactly. And you do everything you can to make it busy. But that is spending money. It's a fact. You can't do it without spending money. And the bigger you are, the more money you spend, because the bigger the show is, the more people you're taking with you, the bigger the van you've got to buy. You can't just turn up in cars anymore. You've got to buy a splitter van and all this. And it all costs. And I think people just see, it's 20 quid a ticket. That means there's 200 people here, so you're making and you go, yeah, what about like the commission off at top that's going to agent and all these other little things that get taken off? And then at the end of it, you're left with like that.
If you're lucky, because a lot of gigs now are costing people money to do.
Yeah, they are.
And especially ones in Europe. How are you finding Europe now? I mean, dare we mention the B word? I mean, we've
dodged Europe basically because it's just not viable. So I've done one gig in France, and I flew out with my guitar, because if you fly, you don't have to have a carnet if you're flying with your guitar. So I did this one. It wasn't with my band, it was with another band, and they put a band around me over there. Flew out, did that, and flew back, and I didn't make any money. It probably cost me to do it by the time I'd driven to Liverpool and then got picked up and gone to Manchester and got picked up again. So it made no money whatsoever. I couldn't take any merch because you can't take merch because you'd have to have a carnet if you're taking merch. So I couldn't sell any CDs. And you just go, well, what's the point? you know. And I mean, we used to do touring in Europe, and it was brilliant, and it was lovely, and it always did well, and it was nice, and it was fun, and we enjoyed it. And now it's like, right, if we want to take the van over with the band, and we've got to do a carnet, and it's going to cost to do that, and then we've got to get a visa for the band, which is going to cost. And by the time you've done it, and you've paid the band, and you've paid for the ferry, I mean, God, the ferries have like trebled.
Yeah.
Trebled.
It don't matter.
3 times more expensive.
3 times more expensive. All right, we're just going with that.
Double in a bit. You know, it's not viable. And you just go, I mean, people have been nagging us to go to America for years and years and years. And I've always said, yeah, if it's viable, I'll go do it. But it isn't, because by the time you've paid for a visa to get to America, unless they're going to pay for a visa and flights and ground transport and accommodation and hire all the equipment there, it's not viable to do it. And there's only so much money you can throw at something before you go, can't pay my bills this month.
I've seen some people, on Facebook and that, and the dreaded Facebook, going and doing this tour in European city of your name, have you required, or
they're not making
indeed the States. And I just look at it and think, yeah, that's a holiday. Sorry, not a paid holiday. Oh. That's a bit of a holiday. Or they're trying to do it under the radar, which, especially in the States,
if you get caught, you're screwed. You're not going back to America for a very long time if you get caught.
No, I wouldn't want to do that. I really want to do that. And it's if you want to do it and just have a nice time, great. Well, I think trying to do it as it was before is, I know Danny Bryant was saying about, because he's got a record company over there. I mean, it's easier for him basically. But we don't even want to get into how much record companies take off you. I mean, if we go down that road, we'll be going down that forever. So you do pay for it again in different ways. But I think for independent artists, it's just kind of excruciating at the moment. And it is so sad, because I think the audiences in Europe, they're kind of a little bit different to over here. A lot of the time, I mean, I didn't do it much before it all blew up. But I'd find that it didn't matter who they were seeing, in a way. They'd just come out and see you. Yeah,
they just enjoy music. They're there because they want to go to a festival, or they want to go out. They're not bothered that I mean, some people will. Some people will already have your CDs and they'll come to watch you, or they'll travel as well. We had people who'd come from Holland and they'd come to Belgium because, or they come from France to Belgium because they're going, well, she's not playing Holland, so we really want to see her, we'll travel. Whereas this country, sometimes, I mean, some people are wonderful, they'll travel to the ends of the earth and they're amazing and we love them so much. But then other people, you'll be playing Leeds and they'll be from, like, Bradford and they'll go, but you're not playing Bradford. And it's like, well, no, I'm playing Leeds, which is 20 minutes away. Oh, well, we're not going there, unless you're playing in his back garden, we're not going. And it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, you can't please everybody, and you can try, but you can't.
You really can't.
Whereas in Europe, people just appreciate you doing it and appreciate music. And even promoters and everything over there, you go there and you feel really wanted. I mean, I'm not one for rider stuff and whatever, and I'm not going to be like, oh yes, I'd like my champagne please, all right, it's not me. I'm happy if I've got some Diet Cokes and a couple of beers. I'm just appreciative of all, really. But over there, it's like you get there and it's like, well, we've done this meal for you and we're going to do this, and we've got orange juice and chocolates and some cake. That's probably why I put on so much weight whenever I tour over there. Every time I used to go over, I'd go for like 3 weeks and I'd come back like half a stone heavier, and my mum would be like, well, you've lived it well for a few weeks. I know, we're all free.
But it's so true, though. There was like a running little buffet we went into when we were just setting up on one. And I thought, well, that's obviously like brilliant. And that's obviously the food. Oh, no, we have a hot meal for you later. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, can we just never leave this place?
I know. That's what it's like, though, isn't it? You get there and there'll be sandwiches and buffet. And then they're like, oh, we're taking you to an Italian restaurant. And then at the end of the gig, they're like, oh, we have some wine and we sit around and eat cheese. And it's like, this is heaven. But you end up like just putting loads of weight on and really tired because every gig, like the promoter wants to sit up with you till like 2 a.m, having a couple of glasses of wine and eating cheese. And then you've got to be up for 7 because you've got to travel to Czech Republic the next day. And you're just like, oh my God. And then you get to Czech Republic and they want to do the same. So every night you don't get to bed till like silly o'clock. And then you're up at silly o'clock to get to breakfast buffet.
Can't miss the breakfast buffet. Come on now, girl. We can't do that. You know what I mean? Well, I'm not going to keep you much longer because I mean, thanks ever so much for talking and for all your honesty as well, and which is you all over basically. So I teach a lot of I call them kids, but they're at a university, but in my eyes they are truly children. My royal,
aren't we all?
yeah, it's just like I look at them, I think, oh my God, they don't know anyone I'm talking about either. Like I'll mention an artist and I'll think they'll know who that is. It's like no, they don't. Which makes me feel even older every day of my life. But there is a lot, I have to say, that have graduated this year. There are a lot of guitar playing females. I mean, really, really great songwriters, that just make me so proud. What would you say, is it all doom and gloom, or what would you say to a young artist starting out today, Chantel? What would you say? Don't do it.
Don't do it. Run. I don't know. Do you know, I was actually talking to Jamie about this the other day and saying if I had to start again, I don't know how I would do it. Because the way that I did it, it's not there anymore. The way I learned. And
how did you start acting?
I mean, I started performing when I was 12 because my parents, because I was bored basically. I was doing guitar lessons from being 7. Dad started me at 3, and then I started lessons at 7. And I was bored, I didn't want to read music and I didn't want to play these songs that I were having to read music for. And I was really fed up with it and I couldn't be bothered and I didn't practice because I was just like, I don't want to do this, And then my dad's like, right, we need to find a way because she can do it. She just can't be bothered doing it. So he was like, we need to find a way of channeling this and try and find a way to make her enthusiastic about it. And they were like, right, performing, let's look at this. So they found jam sessions in Bradford, basically. And every Sunday afternoon, there was this jam session at a pub. And I mean, all the guys there, they were all like blokes in the like from 20s up to like 60s. And they were all potheads, basically. So they'd all play a load of like Grateful Dead stuff. And then they'd go outside and smoke for an hour. And then they'd come back in and play some more Grateful Dead. And at first I was just like, well, I want to get up and play. And they were like, no. But the main guy who ran it was like, yeah, right, come on, get up. He was a Geordie and he was like, right, come on, get up. And he'd get me up to play. And I want amazing at that point, I'm not now anyway, but I want doing particularly leady stuff even really when I started. I was doing bits, but not big solos sort of thing because I was 12. So what we'd do is my dad would sit and practice with me for like 4 hours before we went to jam session, and then he'd just play chords and I'd improvise along, and then Denny would get me up to play and we'd play all these Grateful Dead and Neil Young and whatever. And some of the other band people there that got up, they wouldn't play with me. They'd just go and sit outside and smoke weed instead of playing with me. And I had it all. I was like, she should be at home playing with dolls. She is a Barbie doll. She shouldn't be playing guitar. She's too young to be in a pub. All this. And it was like, and to be fair, the main guy, Denny, he just like was like, I don't care. I don't care whether she's a girl. I don't care how old she is. She's talented and we're going to learn how to channel this and we're going to make it something good. And he really, really like gave me opportunity to do that. And I'll forever be grateful to him for that because, without that, I wouldn't be doing what I do now. So we used to do that on a Sunday. So it was like the Melbourne Jam on a Sunday, the Black Bull Jam on a Monday night, the Peel Jam on a Tuesday, the White Hart at Batley on a Wednesday, the Barge at Brighouse on a Thursday. And then Fridays and Saturdays, my mum and dad would take me to see bands in pubs.
Wow.
So it was like every single night of the week. And back then, as a kid, because I were playing, the pubs would let you in. Now I don't think kids can really go in pubs and stuff, and there's not the jam sessions there anymore either. Whereas then it was like, jam sessions weren't. I know now you get open mics and it's like, basically you've got a band that's rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed in a bedroom, and they go and perform it at a jam session, and that's their little thing. That's not jamming. That's, you've rehearsed and you've got to perform in front of people. That's not jam. This were literally like, I wouldn't get told what key it's in or anything. It'd just be like there'd be a groove starting, then the drummer would join in, and then I'd have to do it by ear and work it out and go, okay, well, this one's in F sharp minor. Okay, so I can put these modes over it and do. And I'd have to do that because nobody'd tell me what key or what we're playing, even what song it was. And I don't think there's the opportunity for kids there now that I had. So to start out and do that, they can't do it. Best they're going to do is get bands that are at school with or mates that they can jam about with and do that. But I don't know, it's not as much fun because you're not performing in front of people. To me, it was all about, spontaneity and improvisation and doing that in front of people, that's how I play now. It's, the majority of it's set songs, but the solos in it are all improvised. And
wow.
You flying by at seat of your pants, it could completely cock up. And if it does, it's kind of funny and you go, oh, that went wrong. And then it's fun to get out of it and work out, well, how can I make this work now? Because I've gone wrong, but how can I make it work?
Wow.
And I enjoy doing that. I thrive on that. I'm a bit weird, a bit strange.
I know, because a lot of guitarists I know, they would hate that because it is, you have to have, excuse me for the phrase, and we're two females, but real balls to do that.
Yeah.
That is not for the faint-hearted. I mean, you say you're living on the edge. You're trying to push your own creativity all the time.
Yeah, but I like doing that in front of people. Most people like would never do that because they like to play safe and they like to, everything's rehearsed, even down to what's spoken between the songs is rehearsed. And I'm like, I'd be rubbish at that. God, I just say what comes out of my head. It's like
I do all the time.
It's awful. It's like, I'll say something and think, oh my God, did I just say that out loud? But it is what it is, and it's human. And to me, music is human. And if you cock up, you cock up. It's human. Everybody makes mistakes, whether you work in, whether you're an accountant, whether you're in a shop, whether you're in a pub, whatever. It's human. And to me, music, because it's so subjective and it's so personal, who's to say it's wrong anyway? If you cock up, well, I meant to do it.
Yeah, it's a blue nose, right?
That's what I said. I blagged it. I'm just playing a bit of jazz.
Yeah, it's jazz. Wrong Note magazine. Yeah. But that is incredible, actually. And, I think, you're absolutely right. But actually learning in that environment, oh my God, I just find that amazing. I didn't know that about you, and I find that just so amazing, and it makes so much sense now, having listened to you playing, and it just makes so much sense. Like it all lines up now in a really amazing way.
Yeah.
But I don't know many people who would do that. I know guitarists, ones that we've been on tour with, who will go through every solo before they go on stage.
I wouldn't do that. That'd just bore me. I don't think I've got the attention span to do that. To me, I'm just like, I just like it. And I like it to be fresh every night as well, because, we have people. One of our biggest fans, he definitely is our biggest fan. I don't know why I'm probably, because he absolutely is. He's been to more than 200 gigs. And
wow.
Pretty much every gig he comes to, and he comes from
Can we give him a shout out? Can we give him a shout out?
Paul Hawley, you are a hero.
We love you. We love you, mate.
He's brilliant. And he's become a family friend as well, because, we've really got to know him. And he'll come from Essex to Scotland, and he'll come from Essex to everywhere. And it's like, it's brilliant. But my concern is if I play the same thing every night and say the same bump in between the songs and play the same songs the same way and the same solos the same way, he wouldn't do that. There's no way he'd travel all that way to see me, because it's boring. And we're lucky that we have people that come to multiple gigs, because it's different every time, and it's exciting for them, and it's exciting for us as a band as well. I mean, God, it'd be so boring if I just had to play the same things, the same way. I mean, you're still playing the same songs pretty much, but every time we play April, because it's an instrumental, it's different. There's no set length to it. It's just an improv, and it's different every time, and it's fun.
I think this is such a great thing to say to younger people, because I do think there is that, especially seeing it with my own ears a lot, that there is that kind of, we don't want to perform until it's brilliant. We don't want to perform until we've played it a million times in a rehearsal. And it's like, that was never the case for me either. It was always just like, we sort of know it, let's go and do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just whatever.
Yeah.
So that is brilliant, actually, to end on that. I mean, just absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So for all the young guitarists that may be listening to this, and I'm going to share it with my students, for God's sake, check out Chantel. She's just incredible, and what a legend, and thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to chat. I've been chatting all night, me.
Well, we could get a couple of, the one thing to end on just before we go, one more for all the real ale lovers out there. What's the number one real ale right now, Chantel?
I don't know. I like so many.
This is a quick fire round, you've got to say.
I can't quick fire. Do you know, actually, because I really like craft beer as well, and we've been brewing and stuff, obviously, in lockdown, but we've been drinking a lot of alcohol-free as well. And there's an amazing alcohol-free brewery called Mash Gang that are doing like incredible stuff with like alcohol-free. Because that's the other thing that's been on the road. You're constantly bombarded with beer. Like everyone's like, have a beer, beer. You can't do it. Like day after day, you cannot do that. It's not rock and roll. It's not cool, and it's not healthy, and you can't do it. So substituting for alcohol-free beer is brilliant, because you think, well, I'm still having a beer. People still think you're having a beer, but you're not, ruining yourself doing it.
Yeah. I'll check that out, actually. Yeah, I'll check that out, because I've curtailed my drinking over the years, I have to say, because I just can't really sing or indeed walk.
Well, you alone
things. I can't do anything, to be honest. People might say I can't do it anyway, but never mind. We won't end on that. Thank you so much, Chantel.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Check out Chantel all over social media, website, at gigs, and go and see her, for God's sake, people. All right. Thanks, Chantel.
Thank you so much.
This is something I have to do, and I got you now. I got you now.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Series 2 of Downs Your Way in association with Blues in Britain. And thank you so much to Chantel. It's just been fabulous talking to her and just finding out so much about her playing, and also just about what she thinks of the industry. As usual, if you've got any comments, questions or feedback, please email me or message me. Contact details are in the show notes below. In the next episode, I shall be having a chat with Big Boy Bloater, guitarist, singer, songwriter, presenter, and all-round entertainer. See you then.